Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast, the Culture Edit Reloaded. I'm Sandra Patel, founder and CEO of Transition Partners. This season, I'm flying solo as I sit down with international leaders to discuss their leadership journeys and how they have embedded a thriving and positive culture. Hello and welcome back to our Let's Talk Leadership podcast. My name's Sandra Patel and I'm so delighted to be back here today recording again. Although I'm missing my ally Ellie Nettleton, who is currently on mat leave with her gorgeous little boy Miles. So today I'd love to welcome Tracy Monday, who is the Global Solutions Executive at Verizon Business. However, Tracy is much more than this. She's also a co-founder and a mentor on the Global Women's Mentoring Program. So Tracy, hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Good, yes, very good. Really lovely to have you on the podcast because we've tried for this recording a couple of times, haven't we? So
We have, yeah. Diaries never always line up, do they?
Oh, I know, that's it. It's absolutely mental at the minute, and we're only at the end of January. I feel like we're already
at
through
the
the year.
end of January.
I know, that's it. So Tracy, it'd be really good initially just to tell give our listeners a little bit of a kind of quick whistle-stop tour of your background and how you've got to where you are today.
Okay. Well, if we go right the way back. I'm a child from the forces, so my parents were in the forces. So I travelled all over the world when I was younger, and I was actually born out of this country too. So it was great, but from a perspective of being English, I never actually lived in England until I was 21. And I worked all over the world and everything, so it's great. So you get all the different cultures. You get to learn to meet people and make friends quickly because they move on because 2 years here, 2 years there, and you're overlapping, which was really good from a social education perspective. So at the age of 21, I thought I want to know what it's like to go to live in England, and I heard all about this going for a courier after a night out, and I didn't even know what that was because I'd never been in England, never gone for a courier for a night out. So I quit my job, booked myself a one-way ticket to London, and rocked up with a suitcase. Found myself a job.
Wow, very courageous marketing. Is that?
Courageous or stupid, not so sure. 21, you have no boundaries, no fears, do you? My nearest relative was 450 miles away, so I suppose if I needed to get anywhere, there was always an option of somebody up in the Lake District who could bail me out. But you don't think when you're that age you can conquer the world, and you don't tend to stop to think.
You have no fear, do you, at that age?
No.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's stupid or just lack of fear. I still to this day don't know which it was. I wouldn't do it now. Clearly, a little bit wiser.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, and I was lucky. I fell into a marketing role for an international marketing agency, and then I ended up moving to a computer company called One Computers. They went belly up many years ago now. But I loved the technology side of things, the marketing technology side of things. So I went to work for a reseller who said, "Yeah, we don't do marketing, but if you want to sell, we'll teach you how to sell." And that was me. I absolutely love selling, and I've been in there ever since. Various different types of roles in resellers, working with systems integrators, but always in the tech industry. And it's now, God forbid, 32 years.
Wow.
And I'm still as non-technical now as I was back then. And that's probably why I do the mentoring stuff as well. I do a bit with young girls in schools, because I think the industry has a view that you've got to be a nerd and you've got to do coding to be in this industry. You don't and you haven't. I did marketing, I do sales. I think sales is a great profession for women. You just sometimes need to get over your own self to get into it and do it well. So yeah, that's why I've got to here.
Fantastic, brilliant. And so obviously you've been in the industry for some time now. How much would you say the industry has changed since you started in the industry? And like, obviously you haven't been in a tech role, but you've worked in the tech industry for some time. And I think that would be really interesting for some of our listeners.
I think tech has probably changed more than any other industry you can imagine. Technology, the speed of technology change is phenomenal. It's certainly an industry where every single day there's something new coming out. You hear about something new. You see about an innovation, you think, wow. I was only reading yesterday about the little tags now that they can do ultrasound scans on a tiny little tag. You don't need to be in hospitals. And that's what I love about tech. tech can do all of that, and there are so many things in the world that you don't even see tech touching and doing. Everything we do every day, and my kids love tech. My kids love tech, but they don't seem to understand what it is that creates that tech behind the scenes. So, yeah, I've seen some phenomenal changes in terms of the development and the speed in which the technology advances is quite phenomenal. The industry itself, in the way it behaves culturally, has taken a slower journey, but it's getting there. This last, I'd say, 10 years has significantly changed, and there's been certainly an acceleration in the cultural attitude within the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I absolutely agree. And the thing with tech is that, like you say, it's always changing. There's always innovation. And like you say, you don't know how it's impacting your everyday life, but there's some amazing, clever things that's going on out there, which is amazing. And so I love working in tech, and it's all I've ever done since university for like 21 years. How do you think? So is it this podcast? One of our aims with this podcast is to really share our learnings and lessons and experiences, particularly from a leadership point of view. And I think the world's evolved and moved on massively from a leadership point of view as well. How do you think that more so in tech? How do you think that's changed over the years within tech?
I think leadership is quite an interesting concept, really, because there's a view, if you're a leader, you're the one on the stage, you're the one that stands up there and tells everybody, this is how the world is I'm going to drive change, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. And actually, I think leadership is more about making the right person be the person on the front, having that conviction and that confidence that taking the right people to do the job and allowing them to do the job and allowing people to find their own way, but with guidance and guardrails where necessary. But not everybody is right to be at front, and just because you're not at front doesn't mean you're not leading. And I think people need to, there's quite an arrogance, particularly in our industry, around, oh, you're the best at everything, or it's your front. If you put on the right front, it's okay. But actually, I think that is also starting to be broken down in the fact that it doesn't matter so much. They want that emotional, that human interaction. They need that human interaction. I think people are more open to that now, and it's suddenly no longer seen as a problem or a weakness, more so a weakness than a problem, actually.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot more. One thing that I'm quite, as a leader, I'm quite, I try my best to be as open and honest and transparent as I can. And I think there's a lot more visible vulnerability these days from leaders, which I don't think, sort of, I don't know, 10 to 20 years ago was really a thing. Like you say, I think there was kind of a lot of, kind of masking those kind of emotions. And as you say, a weakness, it was seen as a weakness.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people, if you showed emotion, it means you weren't tough enough. But I think a lot of women fell into that trap too, actually. I think a lot of women felt like they had to be like men to be able to compete.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So would you say, would you differentiate female and male leadership styles? Like, would you say yours is different from a male, and if so, in what way?
By human nature, yes, we're different. Sorry, I'm just trying to stop that beeping noise.
That's all right. I know I've had my Teams going off as well. Don't worry about it.
I'm trying to get rid of the notifications bursting in. My bad. I should have done that before we started talking. By human nature, we're different animals. Genetically, we're different animals. I think there is a change generally in leadership style. I think 20 years ago, women tried to be more like men because they felt that was the way to get on. Because it was in a man's world, you had to be more like men. I think that pendulum's swung the other way now, and I think men are trying to come more to the middle ground. But and personalities, your background, your religion, wherever you come from, determines how you behave as a leader, whether you're male or female. So I think, yes, we're different. Yes, we look at different skills and qualities. Yes, we have a different way of approaching. But actually, I think both as good as each other and as bad as each other in equal measures whenever and wherever in certain circumstances. So I don't think one is better than the other. I just think they're different, and they'll always be different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's different challenges as well, isn't there? Within that as well. How, in your experience, did being a woman in your profession, do you feel that you had to deal with additional mental challenges that you've had to overcome, like for instance, doubting your ability, maybe not feeling confident enough to apply for certain promotions, progression?
I think without a doubt, there's always been, cause women are so much harder on themselves than anybody else. So it's almost every time you get something or you move into a new role, you have this imposter syndrome
Yeah.
period where you think, oh God, can I really do this? Should I really have taken this job? So, and we also have this feeling that if we can't tick 90% of the request list, then we're not good enough for that job. Whereas actually that's not true at all. And to the conversely, a lot of men will say, oh, I only need to tick 4 out of 10. I'm all right. I can do that. I can learn the rest. So there's always going to be that, and there is always challenges to attitudes towards women and their capabilities. Without a doubt, has changed. It's not perfect, but it has changed. And so, whilst you're also doubting yourself and your own, and then wanting to be 100% fit for something before you do it, and then on top of that, you've got this mentor or this glass ceiling, or whether it's perceived or whether it's real. I think a lot of the time the glass ceilings we put there ourselves. They're not necessarily there. I'm not saying that they aren't there. So don't take that the wrong way. Yeah, there are glass ceilings, but it depends on whether you believe in the fact that they're going to stop you. I've never stopped to think I can't do something. I've just done it. Hence the rock up to London with a one-way ticket and £100 in my pocket. I just do things. I think what a lot of the time we do is we spend too much time worrying and planning and thinking and considering and finding arguments not to do things, that we create our own glass ceilings in a lot of scenarios.
I agree. I think a lot of it is our mindset. It's mindset, and the way that the environments and culture has been for so long, that it's almost become like learned behaviour, and so it can be very difficult to get out of that mindset. On that no, I think it'd be really interesting to hear. Sorry, I'm chucking you a question in now.
No, just listen, just throw it at me. I don't mind. I'll go with the flow. I'll wing it as long as I can, then I'll have to say, oh, sorry, don't know.
Yeah, don't worry, it's fine. So I'd be really interested, and I think our listeners would be really interested in to know, from your experience, obviously you've got a lot of experience, particularly within leadership. What do you think we could do? What could we all do collectively to reduce that impact on women and
See, I think it's already happening, because we had this conversation. There was a Women in Leadership event before Christmas that I attended, and I was talking to somebody there. And as always, you get this panel of people, and they're all coming from, and some, they're not all, but there's very much a victim mentality and a victim undertone in some of those stuff. And one of the questions I raise is that I've got a teenage daughter. I've also got I've got 2 teenage sons and a teenage daughter, but they don't see the gender divide like we do, of our generation. And my concern is that we are going to force our prejudices onto them as they come into the workforce, because they don't see any difference between my daughter and their mates. Do not see any difference between whether they're boys or girls. It's their mates. They do things. There's no difference between one of them washing up versus one of them not washing up. And we're talking to us, and I think we're at risk because we're so conscious of it, and rightly so. We have to be, because it wasn't good. That we're at risk of keeping it going and keeping that narrative in the forefront of everybody's minds. And it's a hard one, because there is no wrong or right answer here. I don't think you can say, well, if we all pretend it doesn't exist, then the new generation are going to come in and they're all going to be really, really happy. Well, that's not necessarily true. And at the same time, if we all continue down this, it's a big problem, it's a big divide, we're going to create the next problem, the next generation feeling the same way. So it's not a simple answer. It's like politics. There's no right, there's no wrong.
No,
You're just
there
on one
isn't.
side or the
There's
other, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly, and it's I think there's definitely a lot more awareness around. There's more initiatives to try and help bridge that kind of divide and gap, which is amazing. That's all we can keep doing. I'm going to change subject now. Throughout your journey, throughout your career, have you ever wanted to quit?
I don't know. I have once quit on the grounds that I didn't agree with the culture of the company. So I have quit on that basis, which was probably not a brave move when I had 3 children, mortgage, and all the other stuff that goes with it. But I think I did that for me rather than for as a result of the company. I think if you get to a headspace where you're not in a positive headspace, you can't be effective in your job. You can't make effective changes. And I think sometimes we try and boil the ocean instead of trying to think what bits can we influence, what bits can we affect, what can we really change, and what can we just hope to work with other people to gain change. So I think as you get older and with hindsight, I think I've never really, apart from that one time, I've never really thought, oh, I can't do this, I need to quit. I think, right, you have your bad days and you have your good days, and that's the same in any profession. I think you've just got to sit down and say, well, why am I doing it? What am I doing wrong? What should I be doing differently? Because it can't always be everybody else, but at the same time, it can't always be you either. So you just need to sit down and take yourself outside that moment, I think, and then just think about who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it. And if you really, really, really are unhappy doing something and it's not for you, then change. Don't stay in something you don't like, but at the same time, don't get out of it just because you're having a bad day or somebody's upset you, because that happens and you're never going to change that.
And the thing is, you're going to have, it's going to be the different stuff elsewhere, isn't it? Like the same stuff.
There's different challenges. You can have a big corporate, you can be in a small startup, you can be in public sector, private sector. Nobody and nowhere is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Nowhere's ever perfect. There's always challenges. There's always red tape. There's always some sort of politics.
And there's people you get on with and people you don't get on with, and processes and principles and rules and regulations that you agree with and others that you don't agree with. And life is always going to have that in there. Life is not fair. Everything is not fair. You just need to understand how you can work around that, and it doesn't affect you both mentally and physically, and that you still get up every day and think, I want to go to work today.
No, absolutely. I must admit I agree, and for me, being a leader for probably sort of 10, 11 years now, I found that it's been quite a frustrating, lonely place. And that's what I feel makes it challenging and difficult to keep going. But I, like you, have just kind of always thought, okay, well, what can I do to change it? And like you said, you have bad days, you have good days. I always describe it as a bit of a roller coaster.
100%. And if you compound working that and then working in sales, because sales is the biggest roller coaster in the world. You have ultimate highs when you have great meetings, you've just signed deals, and then you have real lows where you get a kick from a customer or you fail to win a bid that you've been banking on and you've been working on for years. So that roller coaster never ever changes. But I think as leaders, I think the other thing is, as leaders, you've got to put on that positive face, that happy face. You can't go into a meeting with a team of people and sit there and rant and rave and because you've had a bad day, because all that does is make it worse for everybody else. It doesn't change your personal situation, but at the same time, it's almost like you're having to become somebody else, acting in it. You're pretending to be somebody you're not to make sure, and it can be really, really lonely. But I think industry as a whole, particularly this one, is getting much, much more aware of that. And there are lots more courses. There's lots more drop-in sessions that bigger companies tend to put in place to help people just talk about the problems in a safe environment. There's coaching opportunities going on. So I think you have to recognise that it can be really quite isolating, and I guess the further you go up, the more isolating it can become. But then you've got to make sure that you have that right peer network outside, so you can still go and have that chat with somebody, whether they're male or female. It doesn't really make any difference, and somebody that you can talk to generally that'll either agree with you or not agree with you, or rationalise it, or just let you have a rant one day. I think that's about being human, though, isn't it? I think if you stop being human and become a robot, that's not leadership. That's not what you want, and that's what people don't. And nobody around you wants that either.
No, particularly not these days, not at all. I mean, and I suppose leadership's all about influencing others, working together, collaborating. Um, how do you feel as a leader that you can push for systematic change around the younger generation of women aspiring for a tech career?
I do that. I'm involved with, like I said, I've joined the mentoring program.
Yeah,
I also did some work in previous company with Tech She Can, which is
right.
now a charity. It's spun out of some large companies in the UK to help STEM type subjects in
Yeah,
school children. Because even today, at the age of 5 and onwards, we don't really start pushing IT and our industry until you'll get
no.
into what you're going to select for your GCSEs. Um,
Mm.
my daughter was the first one. She's gone to do cybersecurity and networking at a college near us, and she's the first
Wow,
girl in 4 years to apply.
really?
Yeah,
Gosh, that's
she's the only
shocking.
girl on the course, and she's loving it. But she
Mm,
hadn't done it before,
mm.
and she's loving it. Where she said, "But some of the guys have been doing coding and all the rest of it, and I've never done that." She said, "But I'm the one that always has to go and do the presentations." I said, "Yeah, why is that? Because you're the girl.
Yeah,
So you're the one. So it's not because you're the girl. It's because if you're doing a presentation and there's different colleges and different, you'll be the only girl up there
yeah,
out of all of the other presentations because all the other
absolutely.
ones will be done by a boy."
Mm,
And actually, it's good for you. You get to learn how to do these sort of things, and again, she's learning how to work in that world without
mm,
it being a problem for her. So I think as in we've got loads of challenges on in terms of getting more women into this industry, but I think we also need to start convincing the children at school age that you can be in tech and you don't have to be technical. I'm living proof. You know,
yeah,
I still
absolutely. And
my
me.
my my kids can work the remotes on the Skybox better than I can. So I mean, you don't have to be technical. You can be marketing. You can be accounting. You can
Mm.
the project management. You don't have to be technical to be a
Technology
project.
underpins everything that we
Exactly.
do, every business. Like you say, you do not have to be. I've been in tech recruitment for 21 years. I'm not technical. Um, but yeah, I absolutely agree. And do you know what? My son is 7, and I've just signed him up. He's just started a few weeks ago. I've signed him up to an academy, a coding academy, because his school aren't really and I know he's only 7, but I just thought, you know what, it's the way forward, and I want him to learn and to enjoy it, and he's doing it in a really fun classroom environment where he's enjoying it. Um,
If kids are enjoying it, it's
they'll
like anybody. If you're when you're at work, you have to do some things sometimes you don't enjoy.
that you
But as
don't,
kids, it's very
yeah,
much more difficult for them to engage if they're not into it.
yeah, yeah,
And I think educationally, we've got it wrong, really, really wrong. My daughter at GCSE was discouraged from taking tech because it'd be full of boys and she wouldn't enjoy it. Okay, I have sort of made her go down that route because I don't think that's true, and I'm from this industry, so I know that's not true.
yeah,
But we haven't changed. We're still not attracting girls into STEM subjects as a whole, and it's proven
yeah.
time and time again statistically when they go in there well and they do better. But at the same time, I don't want to discriminate. I
No,
want I want positive encouragement rather than discrimination, because I think
yeah,
if you discriminate, you always leave somebody out, and that and I like to be a little bit more balanced about that. I want positive encouragement, but educationally, we've spread the curriculum so thin now, and there's so many
mm,
things that need to be into considered. Teachers are not going to stand a chance on to delivering the next generation of people that are driving businesses forward, because it's just such a veneer now in all the different subjects and all the different considerations. And I get the fact that society is changing and we need to
mm.
bring all those in, but we had a big push a few years back of cursive writing. When's my son going to use cursive writing?
Oh,
Everything's going to be typed or read out on a screen. And if he wants to write
absolutely.
a fancy letter, he types it in and then turns it into italics or puts
It's
a
and
nice
it's
font.
it's still it's still the case. My son's having to do it at the minute, and whenever I
Brilliant.
do any of his worksheets with him, I said to him, he's struggling with it, and I said, don't bother. I know I probably shouldn't be doing that, but I
I
just
told my son exactly the same. Don't bother.
yeah,
Don't do
that's
it.
what I said. I
If
said, you
he
know what,
didn't want to
don't
go to
bother. I
school,
said because you're going to be typing everything. I said as long as you know how to spell and you can, is what do you call it? Is it more I can't think of the word. Motor skills is,
motor skills.
So I'm just not. I don't even bother with it. I'd focus more on the maths and the spelling and reading,
Correct.
handwriting. Just don't bother with it.
Yeah, I'm told he's got great comprehension of the English language. He's really good at his maths. And my argument to the teachers years ago when this was brought in was, he's never going to do cursive in his life. He's never going to read an instruction pamphlet sent to him on how to build a cabinet that's in cursive.
Yeah.
It's just some hang up from something. Oh,
we're better off getting them on the iPads.
Oh yeah, it's not going to happen. So why put the stress on them? And again, it made him not wanting to go to school because he wasn't enjoying it. He was struggling. But get them early enough. Get them into tech, because at the end of the day, you're not going to roll the clock back. We're always going to have tech, and it's going to keep advancing more and more.
Absolutely.
We're now using tech to advance sustainability and all the rest of it. So it's not going to roll back the clock. We're not going to go back to okay, let's all go back to using abacuses and all the rest of it. That's never going to happen. So let's just embrace the fact that we're moving forward and get the curriculum to move forward with us, because otherwise we're going to get left behind. Our kids are not going to be able to advance in the way that they should be doing, because we're still thinking educationally the way we were thinking 40 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I couldn't agree more. So last question. What advice would you give your younger self if you were to start all over again in the tech industry?
I think the one thing is actually have a plan. Because
easier said than done, though, isn't it?
When you get to a certain point, you say, if I had a plan that I could have got there 5 years earlier, because I would have actually got there because I wanted to get there, rather than just trip over that one. I'm there now. I think have a plan, or a high level plan. Have an idea of where you want to go and who you want to be. Enjoy every day, and don't suffer things for longer than you need to be. Because I think there's one thing that we all do, and women I think do it particularly more so, is we'll tolerate something for a lot longer than we need to. Because our DNA says don't give up on something. Don't cut loose. Don't see this as a failure by stopping something now. So I think my younger self would do what you want to do. Be mindful of everybody around you, because not everybody's the same. Not everybody's had an equal life. Not everybody thinks in the same way you do. But just go for it. Just go and do what you want to do and make yourself happy. Because we're a long time dead, and if you don't enjoy it while you're here, you can't go back and rerun.
Absolutely. Life's too short, isn't it?
Without a doubt.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate you sharing all your valuable experiences with us. If any of our listeners, because when we go live with this podcast, we'll be posting it across various social media channels and Spotify and YouTube and all that. So if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you directly, they may be interested in the mentoring program, or may just want to have, particularly the younger generation who knows you, that, they may want to have a chat and just kind of pick your brains. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I'm on Twitter and I'm on LinkedIn, and I've got quite a unique name, so there aren't that many of us. So I'm pretty easy to find. So I'd just say, just ping me out. I'm more than happy to help. If I can help, I can help. If I can't, I can't.
Yeah, cool. Fantastic.
But it doesn't take very long to give somebody 10 15 minutes of your day.
No, not at all. And that's it. I mean,
after we spent months trying to organise this.
Yeah. But it's giving back to the community, isn't it? And it's all that, and that's the other things I think that goes on a lot more now, is that whole collaboration piece, and we're all sharing, we're all giving back. I
think that's a great point, because we were all very much village, multi-generation. Then we went city and dispersed all over the globe, and now IT and tech is allowing us to go back to village. And that community, because it's allowed us to work from home. It's allowed us to work in our own community and not having to move to the city to do stuff, and not having to be in a different country to be able to achieve your dreams. So I actually think you're right. It is about giving a little bit back and going back to having that bit more of a community feel about the way we live.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time.
No, it's been lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, no, it's been really lovely. Thanks for listening to our latest Let's Talk Leadership, the Culture Edit Reloaded podcast. If you are a leader interested in being on the hot seat, contact me via LinkedIn Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Take care and see you all soon.